Hey guys, welcome back to Willpower Garage. Today, we're working on a 1995 Mitsubishi 3000 GT, and we're going to resurrect the dead. First things first, I'm going to get that passenger side window to work again. For some reason, zip ties, they don't really help. Stay tuned. Okay guys, so to replace the window regulator in this door, obviously the first thing we need to do is we need to get this door panel off. Now, the window regulator in this thing was damaged. I can hear the motor working, but the cable sounds like it's crunching up, like it's eating rocks in there. So more likely than not, what happened is the cable broke or the drive motor, something broke, and the window fell down. From what I understand, the previous owner of this just used zip ties and something to get the window to stay up. Obviously, there's no frame on the door of these cars, so the window, you know, it's what seals everything together. There's no place to attach the window to up here. To remove the door panel on this is fairly simple. There are a couple of caps that cover the side here, and then some Phillips screws. If we come down onto this side, there's a screw in the corner here, and then I've already removed it, but there is a carpeted trim piece on this one at least. It's held in by a single screw on this end, and then on the furthest end, it's actually got a tab or a hook on it that will slide into the door panel. So after you remove that screw, you have a push pin connection. Pop that out, and then just slide this towards the door handle side, not the hinge side, and this will come off. Once you get underneath there, you'll see some additional screws. Once those are out, obviously I already have this loose. Once that's out, you basically just lift the door card up. It's held onto the door itself from the weather stripping there. And then be careful, there are a few connections here, obviously for the light, for my window switches. Okay, so the few connectors I was talking about, you have the one for the light, which should just come off. There you go, there's a little release tab here. And then the window switches, another tab there. Get that off, and then you can remove the door card completely. Set that to the side, keep everything nice and safe. If your car is unmolested, and hasn't been touched yet. I mean, you can see this car was originally a bluish purple. It is now red. There would be a vapor barrier here. And what that means is it's a piece of plastic that goes over this opening here. Its purpose is basically that, keep the vapor, the cold air out and the warm air in, or vice versa, so you don't get mold and mildew buildup on that cardboard door card. This one's missing, obviously. Not a big deal, but you know, if yours is still there, you want to carefully remove it, or at least remove enough of it so you can gain access into here, because you need to get in here to get to the window regulator area. So, as you can see here, there are literally zip ties holding this window up. So first things first, what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut those zip ties and see if I can at least remove the glass out of the door, so I don't have to worry about it dropping down and breaking, because that would be a bad day for anyone, especially a car that's this old. It'd be a little more difficult to get a replacement piece of glass. Once that's out, then we can start removing the regulator assembly. So as a matter of fact, before I go do all that, let me show you guys the replacement. As you can see, this is the replacement regulator. There is not much to it. I got this one off of Amazon. It was the best price and fastest shipping, so I went with it. It had good ratings. Comes with the motor, which is a good idea, because as I was saying, this is a cable-driven window regulator. So what that means is the part where it moves the window up and down, or the glass up and down, is attached with two cables. Comes around a couple of guides here. So when the motor moves, it's pushing or at least letting out cable on one and pulling back on the other, and that's what moves this thing up and down on this track. Generally what happens is the guides here, since they are only plastic, they break. Once that happens, the cable is slack, and then the motor here with the pulley or gear will literally just eat up the cable. I mean, it's shot. So there's only a few bolts that hold in the regulator and then the motor to the door frame itself. But this is the kit assembly I got. And I'll put it in the description below, a link to the one I used. I'm not going to get paid for any of it anyway. It's strictly just so you guys can see the part and where I got it. You know, use your own judgment to decide whether or not you want to purchase the same kit as I did or not. But you know, this is the one I got. So as you saw from the hyperlapse, I've got the zip ties off so I can at least move the window up and down now. I've got I got a fence post just holding the window up because there's nothing wrong with the glass. I do not really need to remove it. Basically, all I'm going to do is I'm going to remove the two 10mm bolts here on the regulator itself. These two 10mm bolts is what is holding the regulator to the glass. So technically, if I remove these two, I should be able to remove the glass. I'm not sure if I need to do that. You know, everything is sort of there and in place. The other mounts here, like this one, for instance, is on a guide rail. There's another guide rail here. There's nothing wrong with those. The rollers and everything that guide the window up and down are fine. So rather than create any more issues and try to remove it and risk damaging those wheels, I'm just going to remove the two 10mm bolts here on the regulator. And then what holds the regulator to the door itself are these four 10mm here. That'll get this longer piece that I showed you where the clips on the top and the bottom where the cables ride usually get damaged. And then finally, I'm going to remove the motor, which is sitting basically in this spot. So I need to remove these three bolts here for the motor. Once that's all out, I should be able to snake out this old regulator and get the new one into place. Okay, so there you have it. There's the old regulator out. You know, looking at this, I could see that the rollers are still okay. Guide's okay. So I don't know, maybe the cable itself here just broke out of the portion where it goes to the motor. But like I said, what happens is once this cable comes out, you can see that this cable here should be all the way down there. The motor basically winds it up, gets over itself, it completely destroys it. Now, I have taken these apart before and re-spooled everything, but I have to tell you, it's extremely time consuming. It's very difficult to do. I wouldn't even recommend it. I mean, the whole new regulator assembly was not very expensive at all. And again, I'll put it in the description so you can see the one I purchased, but it wasn't that bad. Now, I'm going to take the new regulator assembly I have, and I'm going to get it into place into the door. Obviously, what I'm going to do first is I'm going to put everything on loose. And what I mean by that is I'll run the bolts down so they're at least contacting the door. But if you look up here, these are actually slotted. And the reason for that is these guides are on an angle on both front and rear. So you want to make sure that this one is on the same angle so the window goes up nice and straight without binding. So, you know, there's little variations in how this regulator is installed, made. Same with the window, you know, there's a little variation here as well. So you want to make sure that it's going to be nice and true. But the first step is, let's get the new one in and get everything really loose. Real quick, I'll mention it again, but these are literally going into glass. So, you know, you want to be really, really careful both removing these and extremely careful when you tighten these. You don't want to pinch it and then shatter your glass. Like I said, it's going to ruin your day. So let me get the new regulator in, and then I'll show you guys how to make all those adjustments. Okay, so we have the regulator installed here. Again, the bolts are left loose for adjustment purposes. But to attach the regulator to the window glass, and those two 10mm I showed you before to get off, I need to get everything down to this area where I have access to. You saw that the regulator comes shipped with that bracket that mounts to the glass up in this area right now, so I need to get it to come down. Unfortunately, to do that, I need to connect the window switch for this door to the harness. I say unfortunately because the driver's side switch will not operate it without being plugged into the passenger door switch, which is okay because now I can control it here without having to reach over the seat. So with the key powered on, I'm going to lower the regulator, being careful of the glass, right? I left the glass into place. It is currently held up with this, again, fence post cap, my little window holder. And the regulator itself, if you looked at it closely, I might be able to show you on the old one here. The old one has these two tabs, and basically what's going to happen is the window is going to come down and it's going to rest on these two tabs. So you want to make sure that the glass is up and not in the way of this regulator when you go to install it. You don't want to be putting pressure on the glass with these 2 points. And then once the window comes down, it'll come down and rest over these. You're not going to be able to get the window if this is higher and the window's down past these. It's just there's not enough space. So make sure that this is at least lower than the glass when the glass comes down. So right now what we're going to do is I'm going to lower that regulator part, and then I'm going to lower the glass down so we can make attachment. Now I'm going to do this very carefully and very slowly, and I'm going to hold the glass while I take my little window holder out, and then I'm going to lower down that regulator till it's in a nice place that I can attach those bolts. Once it's there, I'm going to lower the glass down nice and slow. Here's the mounts, right? I'm going to bring those down into here. Line those up, and these are the tabs that are going to hold the window. So we have it. Now that it's there, again, we're going to put these bolts in, and we're just going to make them finger tight right now. And again, I mean, you can see the amount of play I get out of the window here. Now, I should also point out, again, this might be a nice area to use an impact gun. Don't do it. You don't want to use an impact wrench to try to get these bolts started or run in. Like I said, you have glass here. The last thing you want to do is break that glass. I'll use my socket here to get these bolts run down. Again, just finger tight. I want to be able to move it around and make for adjustment here. Now this hole is basically the size of the bolt. It's not much adjustment there, but I still need it loose so that if I have to adjust here, I have the adjustment there. Now you can see how much this is moving and how much the regulator I have loose here is also moving. So this is the reason why you want everything sort of loose. Again, the two bolts down here are similar to this one. They're the size of the holes, or the size of the bolts. There's not much adjustment, but you still need those a little loose so you have the adjustment here. So for the adjustment, I'm sure there's a procedure from Mitsubishi on how to do this. I don't have any of that information, so I'm going to show you what I normally do with this type of regulator setup to get installed and adjusted. Now I'm hoping, or I'm basing this all on the fact that the guide rails are still well adjusted to the car body itself. because I'm just trying to adjust the regulator to what's already there. If you have to make adjustments from the door to the car body, for instance, if the front edge of the window doesn't meet up with the car A-pillar, right, or if the back edge of the window doesn't line up with the B-pillar, there's definitely a way more elaborate procedure to adjust all of that stuff. I mean, this thing has, I don't know if it's showing up on camera here, sure. This thing has jam nuts and a center screw to make adjustment. What those are doing is it's going to push the window in or out, right? And what that does is it brings it closer to in the car or further away. Again, there's probably adjustments for all of that. There's another one here. This is again for the front guide rail. It's the lower portion, the upper portion. So again, what I'm going to show you here is just to adjust the regulator to what's already set up. If you have to adjust it to the car, you know, it's a little bit more elaborate. But that being said, first thing I'm going to do, right, these are all still loose. I want to adjust that rail first. And what I usually do is I'll bring the window all the way up till it's on the stops. And now that regulator clamp where it's bolted to the window should be holding the regulator arm here parallel with those two. So I should be able to now run these bolts down and snug them up. Again, I'm not going to over tighten anything just yet. Well, I'm not going to over tighten anything anyway, but I'm not going to tighten anything all the way until I know everything is adjusted properly. So those are now snug. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring it all the way down. Now again, these down here don't really have much of an adjustment. They are really just kind of the fixed size. So what I'm going to do is I'm now going to snug these up with it in its lowest position. Probably should mention now, we could tighten the motor because there is no adjustment on that. That is really just attached to the cables. So we'll tighten these bolts down on the motor itself. They don't need to be over tightened. They just need to be snugged. All right, so again, we're going to go from the bottom all the way to the top. Make sure nothing's binding. I don't know if you could see it here. Let me bring the camera over. So I can see right here my window is nicely aligned where it goes into the A-pillar. It's not coming up too high or anything. But again, we're not trying to align the window to the car itself. We're just aligning the new regulator we installed. So from here, what I'm going to do is I'm now going to bring the window glass down so I can snug up these two bolts. Again, do not over tighten these. They are tightening onto glass. You do not want to break that glass. So these really do not need much. Nice little snug on them. Should be it. If there is a torque specification, I will look it up. I'll put it in the description below to let you guys know what the torque spec is. But, you know, in my experience, it's really not a lot. And, you know, they're just snug. Don't crank these things down tight. All right, so those are snugged. The regulator's snug. The motor's tight. We're going to run this thing up all the way. I'm going to run it all the way down. Nothing's binding. Nothing's making funny noises. It is going up a little slow, which I'm surprised, but then again, this window has not moved in a very, very, very long time. So the final thing I'm going to do before I put my door card back on is I'm going to get some light moly-based grease, and I'm going to grease up all the tracks and the guides where the window is moving. And then I'll run it up and down a few times, and then I'll loosely install my door card just so I can shut the door and make sure that the window itself is lining up with the car body the way I expect it. If it's not, obviously I need to take the door panel off and then readjust all this. But like I said, I'm hoping that the alignment of the guide rails hasn't changed. Therefore, I shouldn't have to align the window. So let me grease this thing all up and then I'll touch back with you guys. As you can see, my window is still lined up very well. I got a nice even reveal here on the weather stripping. Same all the way around here where it comes in. I can see it's nice and tight into the gasket. There is pressure on it, push on the glass. The weather stripping moves just enough. So I know I have a good seal. I know everything is aligned. I shouldn't have to touch those guide rails. So from here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to fully install the door card again. Once all that's back together, I'll come in with a little glass cleaner and clean off all my greasy fingerprints, because no one wants to look at greasy fingerprints after you fix their window. Okay guys, that's it for today's video. As you can see, it's relatively straightforward to replace the window regulator on your 3000 GT. This holds true for the VR4 as well, if you're lucky enough to have the all-wheel drive version. But as always guys, please don't forget to like, subscribe, leave me a comment below. And if you have any other questions about this car or more specifics about how to go about adjusting the window and such, just drop me a comment below. I'll be sure to find you the information if I don't even know it. So that's it guys. Hope you enjoyed this video. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.